It just so happened in her life that she gave birth to her first child while unmarried. There was no great love in Vera's life, no wedding with a white veil. And when she and her son were discharged from the hospital, his father safely disappeared from their lives. He ran away without even seeing his own son. At first, it was unbearably difficult for Vera, both physically and mentally. I had to live in different ways, in a dorm room, in a communal apartment, and with relatives in a small corner behind a curtain. Money was also very tight, interrupted by casual earnings, counting every penny, but one day, when Mishka grew up a little, Vera found a good job and life became a little easier. And when the boy turned 3 years old, Vitaly began to take care of her. Vera did not think long and agreed. She got married, as it seemed to her, very successfully. Her husband had his own large and spacious house in the village, inherited from his parents, where he lived all alone, so Vera entered this house as a full-fledged mistress. His stepfather treated Misha very well and was not at all embarrassed that the boy now lives in his house. Everything changed when Vera gave birth to another son, whom she shared with Vitaly. The father doted on the boy, it was his first and rather late child. That's when Vitaly seemed to have been replaced. He gave all his love and care to his own son, little Tima, and began to treat Mishka not just coldly, but with contempt. For any prank or offense, he scolded him, and sometimes even punished him. He began to spread his hands, and forbade Vera to interfere in the process of education. Mishka had often been hit with a belt lately, but Vera looked at it all and knew that it was impossible to object. A couple of times she tried to protect her son by covering him with herself, but received a powerful rebuff. Vitaly threatened her with violence, and she knew that her husband would keep his word. Lately, he had shown her his true face, a cruel and evil man. With great difficulty, Vera decided to file for divorce. When she announced this to her husband, he beat her and threatened to kick her out of the house with her little geek, and keep the topic for himself. Anyway, if she tries to leave, she'll never see the topic again. Vera had to put up with it. She was thinking and turning over in her head different options for how to confront her husband, but so far she couldn't think of anything. Meanwhile, it seemed to Vitaly that the main obstacle to his family happiness was a small 5-year-old boy. If it wasn't for him, how happily the three of them would have lived in a big house. Misha annoyed him more and more, and he decided to get rid of the boy by any means. If only Vera knew what her husband was up to. He couldn't kill the boy, so he decided to take Misha to the forest and leave him there. The boy will not be able to find his way back. Take him further behind the old swamp so that he wouldn't find the road for sure. And then hunger and forest animals will do their job. We just have to wait for an opportunity. And such an opportunity presented itself. Vera took the topic to the doctor for an examination. She won't be here until the evening. Vitaly knew this because the bus to their village went only twice a day, morning and evening. He had almost a whole day to implement the plan. Knowing his stepson's love for nature and all living things, he invited the boy to make a trip to the forest to feed the squirrels. Mishka's eyes lit up. Of course he agreed. We got dressed, took some provisions with us, and Vitaly led the kid into the forest, through the garden, so that none of the locals would notice. Their house stood on the very edge of the village, and the forest was just around the corner. The locals rarely went to those swampy places, and this was Vitaly's calculation. They had been walking along the swamp at the edge of the forest for quite a long time and came to a place overgrown with moss. After testing the moss for strength, Vitaly realized that it was in this place that you can walk through the swamp. After walking quite a long distance, they found themselves on dense ground. There was a dense forest ahead, into which they headed. A halt. The man announced, and the boy sank wearily to the ground. Mishka couldn't figure out where all the squirrels had gone and why they were walking through the swamp for so long. After Mishka ate and drank hot tea from a thermos, he fell asleep right on the soft grass. After taking one last look at the sleeping child, the stepfather set off on his way back. At home, he met his wife and informed her that a terrible thing had happened. While he was busy with business, the boy disappeared, and he can't find him anywhere. All the villagers were raised, they searched everywhere, but no one could even think that a 5-year-old boy had gone into the forest. At the same time, Vitaly took an active part in the search for his stepson. A little boy woke up alone in a dense forest. At first he did not understand anything. It seemed to him that his stepfather was somewhere nearby. He began to call him, but he did not respond. Then he screamed and cried for a long time, but the forest was still silent. Mishka became very scared, and he hid even deeper under the tree under which he had slept before. Night was coming, curled up. The boy fell asleep after all. In his sleep, it seemed to him that his mother covered him with a warm wool blanket and kissed him gently on the cheek. In the morning, when Mishka opened his eyes, he saw a large gray dog next to him. That's who kept him warm all night. The 5-year-old kid did not understand that this was not a dog, but a gray forest predator. It was an old she-wolf. She had been living alone for a long time, apart from the pack, and did not bring offspring. But she remembered well how little children smelled of milk, just like this human cub. The boy wrapped his arms around the wolf's neck and said, "Doggy, take me home. You definitely know the way to my mom." He carefully pressed his whole body against her, and she slowly led him towards the village. Vera sat at the window for the second day and stared at one point. She was black with grief and uncertainty. Misha has still not been found. Now law enforcement agencies were doing this. Suddenly, she saw a huge gray dog appear behind the vegetable garden at the edge of the forest, and a boy next to it. Vera jumped out into the yard and ran towards the she-wolf. An uncomprehending Vitaly rushed after his wife. The she-wolf stopped a few meters away from Vera. Misha shouted joyfully and rushed into the woman's arms. And at the same time, the wolf and Vitaly looked into each other's eyes. He understood everything, and so did she. At that very moment, the wolf clung to the man's arm. He howled in terrible pain. She didn't want to kill him. If she had wanted to, her jaws would have closed on his throat. People came running. In front of everyone, Vitaly confessed to his crime, and then received a huge sentence in court. After this incident, the old she-wolf was often seen near the village. She came to Vera and her sons. They fed her, saved her from hunger, especially in winter, in gratitude for saving the boy. Dear viewers, if you liked this video, then like and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye.